Good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We are covering a session on Azure Open AI in higher education. I'm Jenny Barker. I'm the Marketing Director for TEKenable. And today's session we'll be doing use cases and AI in action. We'll be recording today's session and distributing the information later by email if you'd like to watch the recording again or see some more information. The speakers for today, we have Barbara Wieland, who's the Head of Education at Microsoft, Mohammed Khan, the Microsoft CTO for TEKenable, and Peter Rose, the TEKenable Group CIO. And with that, I'll be handing over to Barbara.
Thanks, Jenny. Good morning, everybody. Very welcome. My name is Barbara Whelan. I'm the Head of Education for Microsoft Ireland. So my role is to manage the education business for the island of Ireland. And the key part of my role is making sure we align technology with education customers' required outcomes to deliver their strategy or to enable their digital transformation roadmap. And as you can imagine, one of the key topics we talk about these days is Gen AI and the opportunity it offers to education customers. But I think what we've done is we've done a huge amount of discussion about this opportunity, and cognizant there does need to be a discussion around the guardrails and governance, etc. But I think when I was talking to TEKenable, they really showcased some of the use case that they have. So an ability to take what has been theory and to really put it into action. And I think that's the key thing today, is to give you a grounding of what the opportunity is for education and to showcase some use case that TEKenable have in their artillery. So look, I will hand over to Peter, and I'll be here for any questions anyway, but hopefully you enjoy the session. Thanks, Peter.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Barbara. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. The inevitable slide. Jenny's our head of marketing. She'd kill me if I didn't have an about us slide in the deck somewhere. So who are we? We're experts in digital transformation through low-code platforms, data and AI. And the low-code platforms piece is very big for us. Data and AI has been sort of small to middling, I suppose, for the last few years. And then suddenly the interest in data has been driven by the interest in AI, and both of those things have taken off like a rocket in the last year or so. So we're very tightly aligned with Microsoft in this regard. We're Dublin-based, roughly 200 employees, just a little over 200, I think. And in keeping with that sort of rocket trajectory, we've been in the Deloitte Fast 50 for 5 years in a row, including this year. And we must be doing something right, because we got ourselves a Best Place to Work award for the first year we ever entered it last year. So that's a little bit about us. You didn't come on to hear about us, you came on to hear about AI. So what's new in AI? Well, before we go to what's new in AI, I just want to take a little look at the AI family, as I would call it. So AI is actually not just one thing. AI is a collection essentially of two fundamental things and a sub thing. Okay, so the two fundamental things are machine learning and deep learning. So machine learning is essentially statistical analysis. It is the ability to train a machine learning model or an AI model on numerical data, typically, that represents something. It could be sales, it could be grades for students, but it's historical information. Where that training data has some information about an outcome. So perhaps, you know, if you fed them exam results and then a final outcome in terms of the degree course, maybe you can project the outcome of the degree course for a student based upon engagement, based upon attendance, based upon a number of different factors. You feed machine learning a data set with those factors in it and the outcome, and then give it a real student profile that's in flight, as it were, somebody that's currently studying with you. The machine learning will make an attempt using statistical analysis to predict the outcome or the final grade that student might achieve. And I guess early intervention becomes possible then if there's going to be an issue. But essentially, as I said, it comes down to statistical analysis, and it predicts things and it categorizes things. So that's kind of what the fundamentals of it. Deep learning is different. Deep learning is modeled on the chemical structures of the brain, and we talk about neural networks in terms of deep learning. That's the type of AI that it is. And it's very good at identification and classification type problems. So what is this spoken word? what is in this image? That type of sort of identify something or classify something type of challenges. More recently, possibly less recent than people think, about 2 years ago, generative AI came out of the woodwork. It only became really into the public awareness with the arrival of ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is relatively recent in the generative AI journey. It's just a marketing stroke of genius to generate awareness by making the technology accessible. But it's a subset of deep learning. So generative AI is based on deep learning principles, but the fundamental difference is it can generate things. So instead of just analyzing, predicting an outcome, or classifying something, it actually generates output. So it's generating text, it's generating images, generating computer software, that type of thing. Sure, most of you, if not all of you, have had the experience of ChatGPT generating narrative text. It's one of the tools. So, what do you need to know about generative AI? Well, there's a wide range of potential applications, and that ranges from report writing to presentation creation. I've just done a presentation deck for a guest lecture I'm giving at Ulster University tomorrow. Actually, no, sorry, Friday. And 90% of the imagery that's used in that presentation deck I actually generated using generative AI. Some of the deck structure and some of the narrative, I even used generative AI to generate that as well. So, people like me do a fair bit of presenting, fair bit of creation, etc. Can use those tools. It's not just about writing reports or responding to customer services. And also we use it for helping us to write some of the software that we create. The benefits typically fall into 3 categories. So increased productivity. I'll show you some statistics on how much potential productivity increase is available, but it is substantial across the board in most industries. Through sort of task automation and supportive technologies. So the ability to suggest things, to assist with some creative elements of what you do. So suggesting ideas for things, suggesting structures for reports, etc., etc. It can help improve decision making by enabling you to gather insights. So I'm going to show you a bit later on a demo of a product that we have based on Azure Open AI that allows you to derive insights from documentation you may have in your organization. And then generating new business opportunities. So you can create new business opportunities by some of the brainstorming capabilities with generative AI to come up with ideas, to have AI even act in the role of potential customer to critique those ideas, and then obviously to provide the supporting materials, etc., to launch those ideas to market. And it's still a developing technology. I've read various figures. Some range from, it's doubling in capability every 3.4 months, I think is the lowest I've read. And realistically, it's more like every 6 months or so. And of course, there's a huge network of startups generating products based upon the OpenAI capabilities and bringing those products to market. So that creates quite a huge market and a very big landscape to try and get your head around and understand what the potential and the capabilities are, which is why it helps to work with an organization like us. We have dedicated people that worry just about that stuff, Mohammed being one of them. But it creates its own challenges, the fact that things are evolving so quickly. So despite some of the challenges in terms of evolution, it is necessary, increasing productivity, improved decision making, new opportunities for doing things you couldn't do before is a great alignment for your institution, and all educational organizations aspire to generate high quality education and training and deliver world leading research and innovation. So these tools are highly supportive of that agenda. I promised you some statistics in terms of how supportive, and if you look at the graph here, you'll find this is from McKinsey. I've accessed a number of graphs from a number of different sources actually, and they all pretty much have the same sorts of findings, so they're pretty consistent. You can see down in the bottom left, leisure and restaurants is one of the least impacted, but nobody's going to argue that 27% improvement in efficiency across the organization is a small improvement, right? Even though it's the least, it's still huge. It's a dramatic improvement. Education services, you'll find, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th one from the top on the right hand side. It's very nearly at the top with 38% potential improvement in efficiency and effectiveness. So The potential is universally agreed. The potential application of generative AI is universally agreed to be massive. Like all good things, though, there are some risks to be aware of. So when you look at the risks of generative AI, one of them is job displacement. It's interesting. There's sort of the dystopian view that people sometimes cite, saying, "Oh, AI is going to replace the whole of humanity. We're all going to be out of a job, etc., etc." We were in a workshop with an insurance company, a board of directors for a well-known insurance company in Ireland, and the CEO turned around and, in response to sort of job displacement, his comment was, "Never underestimate the ability of the middle class to reinvent themselves," which I thought was very right, very correct. It will move some jobs, but it'll move those people to different roles and give them different skills. And moreover, it'll be supportive for people to accelerate what they can do and improve how they do things. Rather than replace what they do, it will support them in what they do. So I'm not overly concerned about that. And jobs for people like me are one of the ones that's actually most automatable, so I should be perhaps. Bias, and we've all probably heard a bit about bias. Well, it's a bit like the garbage in, garbage out. If you train the models on poor information, you're going to get poor predictive capability. Generative AI models are no different. There can be underlying bias in the way you use them, in the data that they've been trained on, etc. And the main thing there is just to be aware of it, and to put the AI models in a role where they are not autonomously in control of things, and you can spot issues like that. But also, if you're using machine learning, we can do statistical analysis, can't say it, on the data you're feeding in for training, and help to really avoid that type of challenge. Data privacy, yeah, particularly ChatGPT has had a bad reputation and was actually shut down by the Italian regulator, the Data Protection Commissioner, for a few weeks, because everything that goes into ChatGPT was being recorded by them, all the queries, all the answers, and people were providing confidential information into that tool, which was then causing problems because it was coming back out of the tool for other people to see. So the main thing there is use Azure Open AI, which is privacy guaranteed. They don't store the data. Microsoft don't have access to your queries, to your responses, and they don't use any of that information to train the model. So it's none of those concerns arise, and it's GDPR compliant and highly secure. So the Azure Open AI platform is the solution to data privacy. An expectation of accuracy is the next one, in that all deep learning models are not always correct. We're used to computer systems that, barring the odd bug here and there, generally give the right answer. The calculator on your desk is going to give the right answer to the maths queries you give it. Deep learning is not like that. Deep learning can occasionally, or often, if you don't treat it correctly, give incorrect answers to things. So you must have human oversight over what it's doing. That's an absolute essential. Treat the AI as your co-pilot, your supportive technology, your accelerator, but it's not the autopilot. It's not the thing that you allow to do things autonomously typically. Regulation, the EU AI Act actually points out a specific use case for high risk, amongst other specific high risk use cases, of grade prediction technology in education. And that requires, if you're going to use it for applications like that, for you to have a high degree of risk management and mitigation in place. But we can do that. But I thought it was interesting that the EU AI Act actually specifically points that out as high risk, because it can have an impact on people's life, depending on how it's actually applied and used. And then the classic one that most educational institutions have struggled with for a while, in terms of students using the likes of ChatGPT to do their homework for them. Well, in my head, that's a natural progression. So you went, in the educational world back in school days, we went from doing mental mathematics, which was what I was brought up with, to, there's this thing called a calculator that's going to destroy mathematics. Well, no, actually, the calculator was supporting. We were encouraged to use the calculator, but we were told to always do an estimated estimate, or an estimate of the answer before putting it into the calculator, so we could verify that the calculator matched roughly in that estimated range. It was supportive, but a co-pilot. You were being asked to critically assess what it was doing. The same with written reports. We handwritten went to a word processor, and then eventually people started using Google search to surface information. That's a tool. It's a bad tool if they're using it to plagiarize other people's information, but it's still a tool, and if it's used correctly, it's highly powerful. And the skill here is to allow and expect students to use ChatGPT to generate some of their work, but to test their critical thinking capabilities. So the actual skill that you need in the AI world is not so much the ability to write reports and build presentations, it's actually the ability to critique what the AI built for you, to make sure you fact check it, to make sure that it is sensible, that it is actually what you wanted to present, etc., etc. And that's the key skill that, in my view, education should be teaching these days. Technology changes rapidly, as we've seen every 6 months for AI. Teaching the technology skills is not the key thing. Framework for success. Okay, so I'm going to skip through some of these. So develop a strategy. If you're a bit stuck, we can help you with that. But essentially is you need to understand how you're going to apply AI across the organization, what benefits you're going to get, and how you're going to manage the risks. Avoid toys. Any technology that is implemented but doesn't affect a process change, doesn't have an actual benefit, doesn't have a use case, is just a technology in search of a problem, and that becomes a toy. As you paid to implement a toy. So always look for what is the corresponding process change. What does this enable me to do that I couldn't do before? What does it change about something I'm currently doing to the better? Skill up your employees to take advantage of the new AI and to understand and mitigate the risks. Use an ethical framework. Microsoft publishes an ethical framework that we use on all of our projects, and it's actually very comprehensive. It's a form you can fill out, justify your decisions, and create a comprehensive data strategy, because most AI rides on the top of data, and if your data is not good or it's inaccessible, then you have a problem. Okay, and you're going to limit what you can actually do with your AI as a result, and provide guidance. So within TEKenable, we have for example, a cybersecurity policy that dictates what you can and cannot use AI for. But don't worry if you don't capture the link, the slides will be circulated afterwards and it'll be in the recording. So examples. First one I'm calling out is personalized learning. So the capability here is to generate practice problems, to give feedback to students, provide tailored learning resources. And Khan Academy, for example, the online education service, does this really well. They set problems according to the student's progress and ability, using AI to assess that ability and to determine how well they're dealing with problems. And the idea is a bit like an athlete, for example, training for a race. If you ask them from the first day to do a 9-second 100 meters, they're going to fail miserably, and it's incredibly discouraging. So what you want to be doing, obviously, as you well know, and you know probably better than I do, you want to be setting challenges that are just a little bit beyond where they currently are, to bring them forward and challenge them, but not discourage and just cause a major amount of stress because they can't do it. So AI is really good for that in terms of assessing progress, setting problems, determining if they've managed to approach that problem correctly, and stepping forward or back in the difficulty levels. And Khan Academy does that very well. So to illustrate the point, what I did was I went yesterday to ChatGPT, or sorry, GPT-4 actually, a GPT-4 instance, and I wrote on a piece of paper 2 math problems. So one would be suitable probably, and I'm no teacher, but I'm guessing it's sort of for 14-year-old, 15-year-old type of scale of math problem. I drew it on a piece of paper, I uploaded the image to the system, and I asked it to solve the equation. And what it did was it solved the equation and it gave me the steps to break down. So great guidance resource, even from handwritten material. But it's quite capable of running. I did one for a PhD student, but I didn't understand the answer. So I went back and did a degree one and looked at differential calculus on logarithmic functions, very simple log function. And again, it was able to break down the function and explain to me what it was doing in each of the steps. So that particular challenge was taken from Oxford University sample problem sets for mathematical degree students. I haven't validated this is the right answer, but I expect it is. And the key point here is that it's not just solving the problem like a calculator might for you, for example, but it's actually giving you the process and it's giving you the intermediate results. That's great for coaching, right? Really brilliant for student coaching. Now, what about staff? So generative AI can be used for educational content. So as we said before, generative AI, the clue's in the name, it's generative. It can create things, so it can create lesson plans for you. If you give it if you get the broad structure of what you want to teach, it can create the plan for you. It's a draft, right? You would take it and you would tailor it and you put your own spin on it and your own touch. But but it's helping you, it's accelerating the process by creating that structure and that draft for you. It can create quizzes, it can generate sample problems in a particular domain. You can get it to output flashcards, for example, with a question on one side and an answer on the other side, which can be printed through an online flashcard service for your students. They can generate their own flashcards if they wish to from their own revision and their own notes. It could also generative AI is very good at summarizing things. So any document that you might have or set of documents, it can actually take those in and summarize the content back. It could be lesson summaries, it could be summaries of research documentations in your organization. But the fact that it can do that is saving enormous amounts of time and potentially allowing your students to take, for example, course information and say, okay, give me the key points, give me the things I need to know, summarize this exam, summarize this lesson, summarize. It's really, really good at that type of thing. And clearly by doing that, it's freeing up time for the staff to do other things. One of the things that generative AI can do that educational staff typically don't have the time to do is personalize things. So it could actually create personalized content for different people within a particular class or a year group, and tailor it to, as I said, their progression, their level, even tailor it to their language. So it's quite capable of generating native language outputs. It's not translations, it's actually native language outputs, which can make things much more accessible for students who don't have English as a first language, for example. So creating personalized content at scale is something very good, and cybersecurity bad guys are very good at using that to generate phishing messages, for example, that are tailored specifically to you by scraping your social media, scraping your company's website or organization's website, and using that information to tailor a phishing message specifically to you as a person at scale, and millions of them at a time. Well, if the bad guys can do that, we can use it to create personalized content for good in terms of helping people to learn and learn at their own rates. We can, it's a little bit sort of bleeding edge, but we can use AI to assess certain manual skills and procedures. So I can't tell you what it is because it's probably confidential, but one of the educational organizations in the country is asking us to look at using AI to assess a manual process that somebody's been taught. It's not, but let's say it's woodworking, for example. Are they holding the saw correctly? Are they using the saw correctly? Have they have they chipped out the hole with the chisel correctly? And does the joint look right at the end of it? Is the kind of assessment that you can potentially do. So it's not just on written work or mental work. It has potential applications for manual skills and procedures as well. And then obviously there is a capability for support for people with disabilities. When we generate content, and most educational organizations generate huge amounts of content during the year, some of that is image-based, and those images can be analyzed by AI, and AI can generate automatic alternative texts for those images, which then interact with the screen readers that are used by partially sighted and blind people, for example. And again, it can do it en masse and at scale, and it's extremely accurate and extremely effective. We can also enable people with disabilities. We've employed a number of people over the years actually who had motor disabilities, who would use, in one case, he was using a breathing tube to control the mouse, depending on how hard he sucked or blew, and a small amount of movement from his eyes, he could control the mouse and click on the screen. You can imagine how difficult it is to issue a web search, click into the various links, scroll through the documents, in your own head, summarize the output and type the results. Well, now you can go into a generative AI and ask the question and have it search the web. It will summarize and it will come back with a compounded answer that is a summary of all of the results that it found. So far fewer clicks, much less mechanics involved in actually doing it. It's a huge accelerator perhaps for people with disabilities. And we actually have within TEKenable, for example, we have the ability to automatically generate replies to emails based on plugins that are or Copilot capabilities in Outlook. And this sort of support is coming from Microsoft to almost all of the Microsoft tools across the board. So the ability to generate responses, whether that's be to inquiries that are coming by email or tickets on a Dynamics 365 case management system, etc., whatever they may be, all you have to do is give it some guidelines. You can say things like, I agree, schedule an appointment, and it will, it'll generate a nice, very polite, professional looking email for you, which you can amend if you want to, and send it out. So the really quick supportive capabilities in responding to things. And then we have the student support. So one of the challenges that all education institutions have is attracting and informing potential students. You know, you all have open days for students. You all have the ability for schools to come in and do tours and to meet the staff and maybe, you know, experience some sample lectures and things like that, just to get them interested in the idea of third level education, to understand a little bit what student life is like and what it's like to be involved in a course in that type of environment. But a lot of students potentially aren't able to do that because they may be overseas students and they can't engage in that type of thing. So a really simple intervention that every college could potentially do, every college and university, etc., could potentially do, is have an open AI based chatbot acting as a concierge and answering questions or presenting information from a wide range of topics that ranges from, you know, what do you teach on your courses to what do you serve in your canteen. And that's a 24/7 resource that is a multilingual resource. Again, as I said, it can be native language speaking. I think there's well over 40 languages supported in the OpenAI service at this point in time. So it provides the ability to have that kind of personal touch and to answer an enormous range of questions. And we can show you, and we'll show you in a demo, how to do something like that without actually having to know what those questions are in advance. You just have to be able to present the resources, the documents that contain a description of these things, so the canteen menus, etc. And OpenAI and the tools that we can give you will enable you to set up a chatbot that can interrogate those and answer the questions from them. You don't need to know in advance what the questions will be. AI can support the student journey from Freshers Week to alumni. So providing prompts and recommendations and access to information and, you know, a chat type interface. You know, tomorrow's student in the university is today's, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-old teenager wandering around with a face glued to the phone and text messaging everybody through WhatsApp and Insta and etc. etc. They like that interface. They like the chatbot type interface, and they love the convenience of it. So support for that from the initial attracting of the student all the way through to the alumni phase is really powerful. For example, the University of Edinburgh, we found an example online, has created a GPT-4 based writing assistant that critiques the writing skills of students, what they're typing in real time, and will provide feedback. And importantly, it's not just feedback on grammar and spelling and clarity and so on. A lot of that stuff is built into the Office tools these days anyway. It's also about generating new ideas and content. It's providing a prompt, a coach, a capability to provoke, I suppose, and suggest. And then we have the ability, obviously, as I mentioned a few times, to interact with English language content, but for non-English language speakers, and we can make that very, very seamless for them. And Mohammed will show you some of that later. And the ability to unlock institutional knowledge locked up in documents, which is my last topic I'm going to talk about before I hand over to Mo. And so, okay, what do we mean by that? Well, the title there is Unlock the Power of Archive Research, but it's not just archive research. It unlocks access to information of any kind that it's embedded in documents of any sort. So Microsoft Word documents, PDFs, that type of thing. And we can provide quick and easy access to that through a chat interface. About 70% of any organization's actual knowledge is outside of structured databases. It's not in the student management system. It's not in the finance platform. It's not in the CRM. It's in the documents that are created continuously every minute of every day within your organization. About 70% plus actually of that information or knowledge of your institution is locked up in those documents. So I'm not going to I've spoiled some of Mo's. I've stolen some of his thunder, but my colleague Mohammed will take you through and show you how that works. And he's going to actually show you 3 demos, I believe, or he's going to show you 2. So knowledge mining, chat with your documents, which I've been talking about, unlocking document-based information. He's going to show you some of the Microsoft Copilot capabilities, and then if we've time at the end, he switch back to me, and we've got AI image creator. I'm going to show you how to create some really stunning images from AI. Okay, so over to you, Mohammed.
Thank you, Pete. I was watching your time very carefully there. Let me just minimize that.
I was a good boy.
Okay.
I didn't go over my time.
Yeah, you did. So let me just refresh this website. So as Pete said, I'm going to jump straight into a demo. Just shows how you can do essentially knowledge mining. So this is unstructured content. These are documents. So the scenario is, and the interface is the chat interface, and what it's doing is actually going to respond to queries from a user. The queries are in natural language, so you can ask any type of question. This particular scenario is a fictional company called Contoso, and this is the chat domain is essentially it's an HR handbook assistant. So it'll help answer questions from a couple of different types of documents that are kind of sitting behind this. There's the health plans that are on offer to the employees. There's the performance reviews, and there's kind of roles and responsibilities. So I've got some sample prompts just to kick us into the kind of example. And this one is, I'm just going to ask it there. So they'll go and ask the question from the knowledge store, and then use the OpenAI Azure OpenAI service to give a brief answer. So this has gone off and read some documentation. And what I asked is, what is included in my Northwind Health Plus plan that is not in the standard plan? And what it's done is actually read the documentation.
Mo, you're not actually sharing.
Oh, am I not? Sorry, apologies. I thought I did kick that off. Bear with me. Is that better?
Yes, I can see it now.
Okay, I thought I clicked on it. So here's the actual interface, and as I said, we've got a couple of example questions to get us going, and the user interacts with it like any chatbot. So I'm just going to ask it this question, and that is, I'm asking it, what is the included in my Health Plus plan that is not in standard? So this has gone off. It's read a couple of documents, and it's giving me the breakdown of what are the covers included in the Plus plan that are actually missing in the standard plan. Now, what's interesting is I can actually get citations for where it pulled the content from, but it's not necessarily a copy and paste or lift and shift of that content into the response here. It's actually read the content and formed the response based on some instructions I'm given it. So let me just look at one of the documents there. So I'll click on that one. It's actually going to go off and open that chunk of the PDF, which it read. So it got to read this whole page, and then it read the second document. And then based on those two, it formed a brief response because that's what I told it to do. So it saved me a little bit of time kind of looking for the right documents, opening them up, reading them end to end to understand it. I've actually quickly got to the answer I was looking for. So what it did was it kind of identified this is the supporting content chunks out of those documents that it read. And it did this in context of a system prompt or a meta prompt that we gave it. So this is kind of the instruction set that we sent to the actual OpenAI Foundation model. So there's a couple of steps in this interaction where I just asked it a question. Step one was to retrieve the supporting content. So that's done using Azure Cognitive Search, which is basically a search index, but it actually indexes the content and then enriches it with AI skills, various types. But one of the key ones is it actually adds a semantic layer to the index. So there's actually a natural language understanding. So when you do a search, it's not just looking at the repetition of a word in a particular document. It actually understands what you're trying to ask in the natural language. So that's the question I asked. This is what it understood I was looking for. So it kind of translated that first. And then it used these instructions retrieve the supporting content and use these instructions to tell the agent or the OpenAI foundation model what kind of chat domain it's in and what are the parameters within which it needs to operate. Because fundamentally, the generative AI models are creative, so they have a tendency, if you ask open-ended questions, to answer more creatively, or hallucinations is sometimes what it's referred to. But in essence, we've said you're an assistant that helps the company employee with their healthcare plan questions and questions about the employee handbook. Be brief in your answers. This is why I didn't just spit out the full documents for me. I've actually gave it a parameter here. Be brief in the answers. Only answer with facts listed in the sources below. So the sources that were repeated down here, they're the ones we looked at from the documents. Do not use any other kind of content. If you're asking, if you need to ask a clarifying question, and that would help, ask the question. So actually, if you ask a very vague query, it'll actually ask you further questions just to get to the information you're looking for. And essentially, do not return kind of HTML if there was HTML in the sources. Send back a table. So it's kind of giving some formatting instructions. And this is kind of the thought process and the instructions that will be different. So for each chat domain, for each kind of area, let's say HR or sales, or maybe it's research that you're querying, you would have to basically give it some kind of parameters, and that's essentially what we've done behind the scenes. Now, I'm going to ask it a follow-up question. So I'm just going to say, what about hearing? And what this is showing to us is that it actually has an understanding of context. It understands the conversation that happened previously, and without me having to elaborate in a lot more detail, it's giving us a very immediate answer about hearing plans. Even though I didn't say hearing plans or health plans or any of that, it has context from the previous chat conversation history. So it gives you back the differences in what we're hearing. Maybe I just actually want to know the differences between two plans. So I'm just going to ask it. Actually, I could ask lots of questions, but can you just look through both health plans and tell me what the differences are? And every time I ask the question, the answer comes back slightly differently, because it's not copying and pasting. But that's actually gone off, looked at the two health plans, compared their differences, and pulled out a table for me. And maybe that's grand. Maybe I wanted to actually give me the same answer in Arabic, because maybe my English is not my first language. So I'll get it to not really translate, but it's actually going to generate the content. The content itself is stored in a document that's in English, and it actually responds back because it's been trained on all the content that's available openly on the internet. So it has read Arabic content, understands the style of writing. So it's actually translated. Oh, not really translated. It was actually generated Arabic that is Arabic speakers recognize as correct syntax, and using so. And then let's say just to kind of demonstrate or emphasize that it actually understands styles of writing. I'm just going to do a little party trick. Hopefully it answers. So essentially, because there's content on the internet where there's pirate speak in literature, I ask it to answer as a pirate, and it starts kind of so this kind of indicates that because it's read all different styles in different languages of writing, without really having to write any sort of a translator or a parser, it will respond back in the language that it is trained on, which is most common languages on the internet, and it can actually respond back in styles that are you could think of any literature style or any writing style, formal or informal. So that's that kind of demonstrates the power of the generative AI. Now, this is something that all we're doing is just giving it the content and asking the language model that's hosted in Azure Open AI here to respond back to the queries. There's no other programming behind it except to just give this interface and to help it to retrieve the actual semantic index content. The rest is all the actual language model itself generating the outputs as we require. How this is used, so in this case, the chat domains that we come across that people would like to use them is customer service scenarios, sales scenarios, and I know in education these are not as relevant, but possibly student support, and then maybe lots of instructions and manuals and guidance that could help people. So any kind of chat specific kind of area where you've got a lot of documents, they're already there in all organizations. We could design a bot that will actually quickly index that content and present the information out in this fashion. Now, Microsoft is, as Pete mentioned earlier, is baking this concept into all its tools, including Microsoft 365, which will be your Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all of those tools, and Outlook. And already things like the sales Copilot, because we use Dynamics as a sales organization, we use Dynamics to kind of keep track of our opportunities. So we have Sales Copilot, which is built into the Dynamics 365 logo platform, the CRM platform, but it's also available in our Teams and Outlooks. I'm just going to show you Copilot. It loads here on the screen in the context of, let's say, these opportunities. So let me just look at this particular opportunity. So as that loads on screen, I'm just going to ask my Copilot to load. And I'm just going to say, actually, maybe I'll just go summarize. Sorry if I can get the spelling right. So this is running in a US environment, so probably the language skills have to use spellings that are. Sorry, I'll actually start typing. I'll actually show you. So this gives you some suggested prompts. It's easier than typing. I'll just go summarize the opportunity. It'll save me time. Okay, I'll just choose that opportunity there. So what it's doing is, because it is loaded inside the Dynamics, it is grounded in the information. So it knows a lot of information from the training it has on the internet. But to make this useful in this scenario, I don't want it to go off to the open internet and answer questions creatively. I want it to answer questions from within this product I'm in. So depending on where the Copilot loads, whether it's an Outlook or Office or Excel, it has different capabilities essentially. So in this case, it's gone off and actually summarized the opportunity for me. Now, as part of my interaction with this opportunity, I've kind of see that there's a problem here. There's a restock supply of products that this customer is wondering about. So I'm just going to suggest that actually I need to write an email and suggest that we need to have a meeting. So I've got a text here that I've already typed out just for ease. So as soon as I load the email interface, I've got a mail composer here. And I go the compose enables, and I can actually now tell it what kind of email I want to write. And I just say, okay, I want to suggest a Teams call with Sydney. Tell her we should discuss the possibility of automatic orders from the ERP. If their stock levels are down, let her know we have an API to enable this type of ordering. So if I just go there, so the Copilot is going to look at the opportunity, it's going to look at what I'm asking it to do, and it's going to quickly help draft an email. Now, yeah, you could write the email yourself, but in a fast-moving kind of scenario where lots of emails are coming from different customers related to different opportunities, this is a real time saver. So it's kind of pretty much done exactly what I asked it to do. I hope this email is fine. Let's have a Teams call. I look forward to hearing from you. So it's actually added a little bit of niceties around it and compose an email for me. Maybe I say, okay, so I want to kind of embellish it a little bit. So I give it further instructions, get my spelling right, and I go update. So I could have changed the writing styles and so on, but I'm asking now to actually just embellish it a little bit and empathize a little bit with the customer. Maybe it's been a couple of days, nobody's actually gotten back to her. So this, this does that. It actually, improves the writing style. And if I just want to use this, I could just go add it to the email. It pops it in there, and I could just go save the email. So this is kind of an example of how you can actually, quickly respond back. And this is available in Outlook as well, by the way. And it'll recognize that it's coming from a customer of yours. The same type of functionality is available, for example, in a customer service scenario with case management. So you may you come back to this case after a couple of days, or maybe a colleague is on holiday and you're taking it over. You can see that it's at research stage. The problem is something around shipping times. I got lots of data points here. How do I know what's going on? So I just use the OpenAI service built in here to summarize this case. Now, this is exactly the same service I demonstrated earlier, which is, where we did the chatbot. But now it's actually read all this conversation and says, oh, we got a customer. He's reached out. There's a delay in shipment times for the recent order. Companies apologized. We're investigating. So I got to catch up here. I'm actually not aware of what our order shipment time is, or I know it's there somewhere in our knowledge base. So I'm just going to go ask Copilot. I want the exact kind of shipment times that our company advertises to customers, or maybe on our website. So our knowledge base has been, the assumption is knowledge base has been building up over the years. Other colleagues of mine with questions coming from customers or queries have already compiled that information into knowledge articles that are published and available. So now I can, instead of searching for that or asking a colleague, oh, remember last week or last month there was a customer, what was the answer there? I can actually just tap into the information. It's pulled that information from me, and I can even see the sources like the citations I showed earlier. And it's basically driven by knowledge-based content that somebody is kind of curated for use for other people. So that's where I actually pull the information from, without me having to click around and search the knowledge base and find the correct article. Now, maybe I wanna actually respond back nicely to this customer. So I'll go email here, and I'll go provide product service details. So I'll let the email interface load. Just bear with me 1 second. Now, there we go. So it's already given me some useful suggestions, and I go provide some product service details. I'm not even giving it any context apart from just having loaded it. So let's see what it comes back with as a possible answer for the customer. So it's composed an email. It's thanking her, looked at information, and I don't know if it picked up on the chat conversation I was having, but it's understood that the customer is concerned about order shipping times. It's referred to the same article, composed an email around it, topped and tailed it, and saved me, a good 10-15 minutes trying to compile that type of information. If I click copy there, go straight in, and the email is now kind of sent. So if that be the case, somebody else comes in, or I come in after a couple of days, and I summarize the case. Now, remember when we started, we looked at the summary of this case. Now, because there is further content, it is saying in a subsequent email, the system administrator provided, so that's my name here as a logged in user. It could be Joe Blogs, provided information on the estimated delivery times for various shipping options offered by the company and assured the customer. So the AI is immediately picked up on the extra information that is now the second email. And there might be a long thread of conversation, notes, calls, and so on, and upcoming appointments. The AI can help you quickly get to what is it that we need to do, and pull information that's relevant from the existing data sources, and actually help you quickly respond to the customer. So this is a classic example of how productivity can help improve customer service. This could be in any type of business, even education is a business in a sense. Your students need help and support. So a similar type of productivity can be brought to bear. I have another example, and I'm not sure how we're doing for time there. Do you want to go into questions, Pete, or should I keep going?
No, let's not go with the database one now. So
no worries. Okay, we'll stop there.
I'm happy to show the DALL-E image generation. I can do that in about 3 minutes, and then we'll go to questions. If anybody's got any questions, please make sure you put them in the Q&A. But also, we're happy to follow up afterwards. I'm going to show you this because it's on the agenda just real quick. It won't take very long. This is a resource that is not necessarily widely known about, but is extremely useful and free of charge. which is it's Bing Image Creator. You can just search for it in Bing and you'll find it there. What it does is it generates images based upon, and they're free to use images, they're yours, based upon a descriptive text that you put in. So the example I've got here, for example, these are ones I've actually been generating for use. A parcel delivery van with TEKenable written on the side, traveling at speed down a wide road, cartoon style, so you can control the style. I'll show you another example in a second. And you can control things like color schemes and so on. So using red and green color shades for the van. And it's given me different alternatives, and I can ask it to do that again and again and again if I'm not happy with these, add additional instructions. The previous version of this, which was available, was the live version up until only a few weeks ago, had no idea what to do with text, whereas this is incredibly powerful. This is placing text. I didn't tell it where to put it on the van. It has inherently understood where that should go on a delivery van, and it has created it with the correct angle for the perspective of the vehicle that it's putting it on compared to the image. There is a heck of a lot going on behind this that people don't necessarily appreciate, but it's really powerful. If you like it, you can just click on one of these, download it to your PC, and start using it. So one I want to show you is I got some photorealistic stuff. I had a slide entitled 100 Ways to Skin a Cat, and I wanted an image of a cat looking shocked. So to decorate the slide, basically, I've got a very shocked looking cat facing left and up. It's given me some combinations. You see, they're incredible. They're really, really photorealistic. This is a cat that's never existed. This is a purely generated image. It is not a search engine. It has generated that from scratch of what it understands cats to look like. As you can see, it's incredibly detailed. So I just wanted to give you a flavor of that. I'm going to show you how it actually works from a generation point of view. And like Mo, I've borrowed a bit of text into the clipboard. So I'm asking it for a teddy bear skateboarding in Times Square in the style of Japanese anime. And you can see here, it's actually going off and it's going to generate the thing. And once it's generated, it will come back with 4 examples for me to like. And if I click into any one of these at random, there's your teddy bear. And that looks like Times Square. So it understands the placement, it understands physics in terms of, the teddy bear's not flying in midair, it's got a skateboard, it's got a foot on the skateboard, it understands the relationship between objects, styles, etc. Really, really very powerful tool. So I just want to go now. Thank you very much for that. And I'll go to Q&A in the 5 minutes that we've got left.
We have a question in there, Pete.
It'd be a good idea if I'd actually put the Q&A window up on the screen, wouldn't it? Okay, thank you. In education, one of the biggest concerns about using AI relates to the issues of transparency, trustworthiness, reliability, etc. You have said that OpenAI is privacy guaranteed, GDPR compliant, yeah, but it is built, as I understand it, on the OpenAI Foundation model, which sometimes generate problematic content, biased or racist, for example. How can we show the chatbot we create to interact with prospective students, for example, won't incorporate some of these limitations? Okay, really good question. It's really 2 things. One, there is no guarantee. Okay, you can do your best. You can use heavy, quite complex prompt engineering, which we can help you with, which is how you put the query that's being entered. So in a chatbot, the user of the chatbot will enter some text, and that text becomes part of, not the entirety of the query that goes down to the actual OpenAI engine. When you go into ChatGPT, even it behind the scenes is adding some information to that to set some context and set some controls around it. We can use prompt engineering so that query entered by the user or the comment entered by the user becomes part of a prompt, and the prompt controls for the type of outcome you want to get. In addition to that, there's ethical filters that are applied to the GPT models through Azure OpenAI that will prevent it to a very, very high degree from creating undesirable or unethical content. And you have a level of control over what you want to control for there. So we've got prompt engineering to control it, and we have the ethical filtering capabilities within the Azure OpenAI as well, which will prevent it creating dangerous content or content that is malicious, for example. but the best practice is to inform your chatbot users that they are interacting with an AI, that the information that it provides back is not necessarily 100% accurate, and they should verify it themselves. It's just part of the transparency agenda. I hope that answers your question. Mo, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so within Azure OpenAI, there's a AI safety service. So it is basically like a moderator. It does give you some control. It's very early kind of version of the product, but essentially it is designed for this, to moderate it over time. So you can add in some extra parameters. So the OpenAI model deployed within it, regardless of any prompt engineering, can be further controlled centrally by the Azure administrator, and put in some extra moderation settings on it. And if they notice, like somebody reports, let's say the AI bot responded with a racist or dangerous content, they can actually go back and look at that interaction and add it to the filter. So over time, you can add a level of safety. So there's a whole raft of investment Microsoft has been doing in around bias and ethical kind of issues around AI, and they're building kind of the product with accompanying tools for administrators to help it further. So if you're interested kind of to talk about that, we can certainly kind of set up a session just around that with you if you like. But yeah, there's a whole area around this that Microsoft is invested in. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you for the question. It's a very good question. Okay, I think we're 2 minutes to close. There's something else. Is there something else in Q&A? No. Okay. So, Barbara, do you want a last word on this, and then we'll close the session?
No, just to say thank you, and thank you for everyone for attending. And I think as TEKenable had said there, please do reach out. I think the ask from us is, we want to test out this technology to see where the opportunity really lies for education. So please do approach us. Happy to engage, and hope everybody enjoys their day. Thank you for attending again.
Thanks very much.
And thanks,
Have a good day.
TEKenable team.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.